Okay, so in our last video, we talked about the introduction to biology. Okay, so if you haven't watched the first video, I would advise that you go over the first video. It's only 7 minutes video, a quick introduction to biology. Okay, so in a previous explanation, we explained a few things. Okay, and then one thing I pointed out was, like, in my next video, we'll look at characteristics of living things. Okay, so living things again here, remember in biology, the term living things, okay, it's important to replace it with what? Organisms, characteristics of organisms. If you want, you can say living organisms. Okay, living organisms. All right. Okay, so now here I'll just make the video short and simple and straightforward. Okay, so we have a mnemonic, very powerful mnemonic. Okay, this has helped us a lot. This same mnemonic can help you to answer a lot of paper 1 questions under this topic. Okay, so the mnemonic is Mr. Graphic. Okay, it summarizes all the characteristics of what? Of living things. Okay, so Mr. Graphic. So starting from the last letter C there, it simply means cells. Okay, cells. Then the I simply means irritability. Okay, here is the word irritability. Then the second word E simply means excretion. Okay, excretion. Here is excretion here. Then you have feeding. Okay, for F, feeding. R. So now for R, if you notice, we have got this first R and the other one here. Okay, so depending on what you want to start with, okay, one is going to mean reproduction, the other one is going to mean respiration. Okay, so and so on and so forth. Okay, so now let's just dive into this. Okay, cells. Okay, so it's one of the most important. Okay, they are all important. Okay, cells, it's a characteristic of anything that is living. Okay, remember we said the living organism. Okay, it must have cells. Okay, it must have what? Cells. Okay, any living organism must have what we call what? Cells. Okay, now what are cells? Okay, what is a cell? So when you talk about a cell, it's a building block. When I say building block, okay, remember, if someone is building, okay, let's say if you're building a house, okay, you're building a house, you have what we call blocks. Okay, blocks where you put them one by one. Okay, one by one, you arrange the blocks until you come up with something that looks like a house. Okay, so that's how cells are. Also, they're more like blocks. Okay, they're more like what? Blocks. Okay, so remember on cells. Okay, just we're still in introduction. Okay, building blocks. Okay, that's an I. Building blocks. Okay, building blocks. Okay, so now cells, according to biology, okay, cell is a functional basic unit. Okay, functional basic unit, very important. Okay, high-yield functional basic unit. So when you define a cell, remember to start with functional. Okay, all cells have got functions. Functional basic unit. Okay, functional basic unit of a living what? Organism. Okay, very important. Functional basic unit of a living what? Organism. So now here, what I want us to know, okay, under cells, what I want us to know under cells is that all living things have got cells. Okay, all living things have got what? Cells. Okay, we're saying all living things have got cells. Now the number of cells, okay, the number of what? Of cells. Okay, so we find that there are those organisms that may only have one cell only. Okay, and others, they have more than one cell. Okay, so we'll just say many cells. Okay, so now those organisms with only one cell only, okay, we call them unicellular organisms. Okay, unicellular. Uni here means one, okay, or single, okay, single cell, okay, unicellular, okay, meaning that they only have one cell, okay. And the example here, very important for you to know, an example of an organism that is made up of only one cell, So this organism we call an amoeba. An amoeba, okay, an amoeba. So apart from this, now we have another group of organisms that are made up of many cells, okay, many cells. For example, human beings, okay. So we call this multicellular, okay. They're known as multicellular, okay, multicellular or multicellular, okay, depending on how you want to pronounce that, okay. So multi here means more than one, okay, many cells. Example, humans, we have got billions and billions of cells, okay, a lot of cells on our body, okay. So that's one characteristic. That's one characteristic of living thing that we've looked at, okay. And apart from this, okay, we have the next one is irritability. So irritability, the other word, okay, for irritability, it's sensitivity, okay, sensitivity, okay. So sensitivity or irritability, what does this mean? Okay, it's one of the important characteristics of living things, okay. So under irritability here, don't confuse yourself, okay, it's very simple, okay. It's just the ability to detect and respond, the ability to detect and to respond to what? To stimuli, okay. If you're asked the question to define sensitivity or irritability, okay, simply the ability to detect and to respond, not only detecting, okay, not only detecting but also respond to stimuli, okay. Again, don't get confused. Stimuli, okay, what is stimuli? Okay, stimuli is simply a change in the environment, okay, a change in the environment. That's what we call a stimuli. So any change in the environment, we call it a what? A stimuli, okay. For example, what type of change in the environment, okay. So most of the times you find that when we are in January, we have rain season, it's a bit hot, but as you go over to June, July, it becomes cold, okay. So that's a change that we notice in the environment, okay. This change, we call it change in temperature, okay, the change in temperature in the environment, okay. That's an example of a stimuli, okay, change, okay. So don't forget to add the word change. So change in what? In temperature, okay. Change in temperature is a stimuli. So this type of stimuli that we experience, a change in an environment, okay. So a stimuli is a change in an environment. So we should be able to detect, not only to detect, but also to respond to that change, okay, to respond to that change, okay. So now how do we respond to this change, okay? So we detect when it's cold and when it becomes hot, and then we're able to respond, okay. So that's another characteristics of a living thing, okay. So this is just an example of a change. There are many stimuli, okay. We have many stimuli in the environment, okay. This is just one of them, okay. So first thing we looked at under the characteristics of living things was what? Cells. All living things are made up of cells. Some one cell only, we call them what? Unicellular. Others are made up of many cells, we call these multicellular, okay, multicellular. So after irritability, the next word that comes here, it's feeding, okay, feeding. So feeding, sometimes here they'll call it nutrition. nutrition. So I'm sure we already know what feeding is all about, the process of obtaining what nutrients, okay, or eating, okay. Simple terms, eating. Anything that is living has a way that it acquires nutrients, okay. How do we acquire nutrients? As human beings, we eat different types of food, okay. We eat different types of food, so we call that what? Feeding or nutrition, okay. The other one is excretion, okay. It's excretion. Now excretion is simply a process. So imagine if we eat a lot of things as human beings. We eat meat, maybe you're going to have a cake, you're going to have ice cream, okay, a lot of things that we eat when we're feeding, okay, to get nutrients so that we can be healthy, okay. But not all of those things are like important for the body. So some of those things the body gets them out, okay, it removes them out, okay, because most of them, some of them are waste, okay, we call them waste, and some are harmful, okay, they are waste and they are harmful. So the body must have a way of removing those things from our body. So we call this process excretion. It's the removal, okay, the key word to know here, removal of toxic wastes from the body. Removal of toxic wastes from the body, that is excretion. Example of these toxic wastes, we'll look at them, okay. It's carbon dioxide is a waste, okay, that has to be removed from the body, and we have organs in the body that have got that function, okay. So reproduction, so our first arrow here will simply mean reproduction, meaning our next one will mean respiration, okay. So here, reproduction, the process of producing offsprings, okay, the process of producing what? Offsprings. Most important, all living things must have a way of producing their young ones, okay, the process of producing their young ones, okay, producing what? Offsprings. Just like human beings, when you get older, you get married and you have children, okay, we call that reproduction, okay. Even plants, okay, do that, okay, we'll look at that, okay. So both plants and animals, so these characteristics we're looking at, they're exhibited in both plants and what? In animals, okay. Another one, okay, growth. The key word here under growth, it's permanent, okay, the keywords. So it's good to know the keywords: permanent, increase in size and mass, okay. So find that when you're born, you just take a small baby, okay, you just take a small baby, okay, then you mature into adult, okay. So you increase in both what? Size and mass, okay. Permanent increase in both size and mass. This must happen without any help, okay. Must happen without any external help, okay. So apart from that, now we'll look at reproduction. We've talked of reproduction. Now respiration. So remember, when we feed, okay, when we feed, we eat something. What do we eat? Why do we eat? Okay, why do we eat? Okay, it's to get energy. We get energy from the food we eat, okay. So respiration is the release of energy. The key word here, release of energy. Release of energy from food. So the food that we take, the body has to extract the energy from that food, okay. And that energy is what we use to do various types of activities, okay. And one of those activities that we do when we have energy, it's movement, okay. Wonderful. So movement is the process of changing location, okay, changing location and posture, okay, changing location and posture, okay, changing location and what? And posture, okay, movement, okay. So now you have a certain type of movement, okay, that involves growth, okay. We call this type of movement tropism, okay. This is seen in plants, okay. It's movement due to what? Movement due to what? Growth, It's called tropism. Okay, the type of movement which is has nothing to do with growth. Okay, we call this locomotion, and this is what we human beings exhibit. Okay, locomotion in humans. Okay, so now these characteristics, okay, are very important, and you'll be asked a lot of questions, paper 1 and what? Paper 2. Okay, so just remember what I was explaining here. You have to watch the video again, go back to the video. Okay, so in our next video we'll look at something different. Okay, but first, before I end this video, so these characteristics as what we've looked at, okay, you'll discover that they are the main topics in biology. Okay, they're the major topics in biology. So we're going to look at cells, we're going to look at sensitivity, we're going to look at nutrition, we're going to look at excretion, we'll look at reproduction, we'll look at growth, we'll look at reproduction, we'll look at respiration as well. Okay, right, so see you in my next video.